All right, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel. Today we're going to be looking at the first weekend of Black Bolt and White Flare Legal Online Tournament results here. Of course, the meta has shaken up quite a bit since the release of Black Bolt and White Flare. Specifically, Goldengo has become the most popular deck in the online tournament since the release of the new set. And I'm going to look at any shakeups in the format, what decks are gaining more popularity, what tech cards people are playing, what decks are winning, all that stuff I'm going to be analyzing in today's video. We've had some pretty big tournaments too. I mean, we just had the Smart Series tournament just wrap up last night, which had over 1,500 people playing in it, which is insane. I think that's like the biggest Pokemon TCG online tournament ever. Like, even on PTCGO, we never had a tournament be that big, I don't think. So, pretty crazy stuff, and I'm excited to look at all these results. Of course, they will impact the World Championships, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. So, these results are pretty important leading into the World Championships. So, if y'all are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Leave a link to Play.Limits if you want to go play in any of these tournaments for yourself. Link in the description. So, let's get into it here. Starting off, we got the Tournament of Doom, which was won, of course, by a Charizard deck. Now, I think Charizard is definitely in an interesting spot right now going into this format, and that's mainly because it does beat up on Goldengo, mainly because you have the Dusknoirs. You can kind of blow up their board. You can make Charizard take a bunch of prizes, and they have the Chi-Yu in the deck, which is a pretty important tech card to have right now in the format. Very strong deck in general. I think the decline of Dragapult has helped this deck. Dragapult has fallen off a little bit with the release of Black Bolt, White Flare. I haven't seen as much Dragapult. I think Gardevoir and Goldengo's popularity has scared it off a little bit, which is good for Charizard. Charizard doesn't really do too well against Dragapult, so when that deck falls off, it's even better for a deck here like Charizard. And this one is just like the nuke build. It's just heavy Dusk Engine, Precious Trolley is a spec. Trying to go all in on the Dusknoirs. No Pidgeot, no Fez, nothing like that. You're just trying to be all about blowing up your opponent's board and making Charizard just sweep through your opponent by using Dusknoir. It was able to win the tourney. It did beat Joltik Box in the finals here. So I think Joltik Box is in an interesting spot right now. It's definitely not a bad deck at the moment. It does boast a decent matchup, I think, into stuff like Goldengo and maybe even into Guardy. But yeah, Joltik still is kind of doing Joltik things. You could argue that it does gain stuff like Zekrom or Tynamo, Electric, but this build here just kind of keeps it classic. Just does have an air balloon, which is like the one difference in this deck. But other than that, yeah, no Zekrom or anything. Just usual attackers with Pika and hands. You got the Grass Tacker, the Leaves, and the Clefairy. You still have that like toolbox approach. And then we got a bunch of Goldengo here in the top 8. Like I said, Goldengo, ever since releasing the new set, this deck has shot up in popularity. Everyone's playing it. It's now like the most played deck in all these tournaments, and it was able to make some good results here this weekend, of course. We did see this build using the Genesect. Obviously, Genesect is going to be common, but it's interesting to see how people are building their Goldengo lists. Mainly because, like, how are they teching it out? What cards they put in the deck to improve the deck's consistency, help fix certain matchups. We see this build does play the 1/1 line of Scizor for the extra attacker, and then you have the Iron Bundle in the deck, and the bundle can be pretty good against Jellicent because you can push out of the active spot. There's no Monkey Dory in here. A lot of the Goldengo lists now, I think, have been cutting the Monkey Dory from them, which is an interesting inclusion for sure. And then we have Rigid Band in here and Picnic Basket as two other tech cards. Rigid Band helps a lot against Chi-Yu, and then obviously the Picnic Basket helps against those spread-focused decks. We have another Goldengo here in top 4. This one did play the Monkey Dory, no Scizor, but did have the Iron Bundle in there. Did have the Lavencia also. It's kind of your normal Goldengo stuff. We did see the 4 Arven, 3 Cypher, 3 Boss. A lot of the Goldengo lists are now playing like heavy Turo, heavy Boss now to maximize the potential of the Genesect and stuff. It has a Baby Dango in the deck, which is a decent inclusion for the mirror. That's going to be the thing, is like the mirror tech. The deck is so popular, people are trying to tech for the mirror. Is Scizor enough to beat the mirror? I don't know. We see another build here, also playing Iron Bundle, and Scizor does have Monkey Dory in the deck this time, though. No Picnic Basket, anything like that. Does play double Artisan for Nest Ball. I kind of like that idea, like, just try to get Pokemon out as quick as possible, make your board as many Goldengos as you can as fast as possible. I like the idea of just playing like double Artisan. You just have so many basic search outs, like you're just getting Gimme Ghouls in play, which I actually like that approach to building a Goldengo for sure. And we got a Frostlass Monkey Dory deck here in top 8. So this deck might get a little better. It does, I think it should theoretically have a good Goldengo matchup, especially if they're cutting the monkeys from the deck, it's actually pretty good because you can Devo them. Obviously, you just kind of set up your Frostlass, spread a bunch of damage, hit them with the Devo. You have Shaman and Maractus and Budu for some support. The Maractus can be good against Goldango if they're only playing like one Turo. And then you have the Budus, which obviously Budu does Budu things. Pretty straightforward like Frostlass list here, but the deck's still pretty strong in my opinion, and I mean, still pretty good. Is it better than Grimmsnarl, though, is the question, because you might struggle more in Tegardi. We had another Goldango in top 8. This one did have the Baby Genesect. This is the other tech card Goldango has been playing right now, and that's Genesect. So Genesect is cool because you can stop your opponent from being able to play their E-Search Pro. So in the mirror, you play your Genesect down, they can't E-Search Pro. The problem with Genesect is, now that we have Tool Scrapper in the format, Goldango is now going to start playing Tool Scrapper so that if the opponent plays Baby Genesect, they just go Scrapper away the Charm or whatever, the Air Balloon, and then they just go like E-Search Pro anyway. So as soon as this card becomes popular, we're going to start seeing Goldango play Tool Scrapper. But I think for this tournament, it was pretty good. No one was playing Tool Scrapper. But yeah, we do see this build does have the Double Jenny, no Scizor, does play the bundle, no Monkey Dory once again, does have League Headquarters and Lavencia and Picnic Basket for some tech cards. Pretty heavy gear count, 3 Pokegear. So I don't hate that, actually. 3 gear seems kind of decent. And then finally in the top 8, we had a Flareon. This deck, in my opinion, seems really good right now. With all the Goldango going around, it's definitely not a bad deck. This deck should be probably the one of, if not the best deck to beat Goldango with, apart from maybe Typhlosion. But at least Flareon boasts a better matchup and stuff like Grimmsnarl and Dragapult as opposed to Typhlosion, which is still good. Brave Bangle is a great upgrade to the deck, but Typhlosion at the end of the day will still struggle against these big Stage 2 decks, even though you do have more damage modifiers, where Flareon does have a better time into those matchups. This build plays Pidgeot, which I do like. But yeah, Flareon seems really good right now. Like, if I'm somebody who wants to play in this format, get better at it, like, Flareon's a deck that I would maybe consider taking seriously, because it definitely feels like it's in a pretty good position right now in the meta. All right, next tournament, we have the Redacted Blue Ditto tournament here, which was won by Crustle Cornerstone. So, not Crustle Thorns. Forget about that deck. This one was playing just straight Crustle with Monkey Dory. It was like just kind of a wall deck, if anything. Still played stuff like the Poke Vital and stuff like that, but it was just more of an attacking Crustle deck. Did have the Cornerstone. This deck basically auto-wins Goldango. Like, even if they have Scizor or Baby Dango, like, you have Cornerstone and 3 Crustle. Like, Goldango is not beating that, especially if now they're also cutting Monkey Dory. Like, their attacking options are extremely limited against you, so this deck just probably auto-wins Goldango if they don't play any real good attackers against you that can actually put up a good fight, which is the advantage of playing this wall deck. And the wall deck's pretty good in the early beginnings of a format because everyone's just trying to, like, figure out what's good. So, like, these type of decks will do better. It actually beat a Grimmsnarl in the finals, which is, I mean, I guess not surprising. Crustle is pretty good against Grimm because Grimmsnarl doesn't really have any good attackers against it because they don't play any Psychic Energy and there's no other dark attackers. It does have Monkey Dory, though, and Frostlass, but that's not really enough when Crustle can just kind of sit there and, like, gust out the liabilities. But I think Grimm is still really good. I think Grimm does fare well against Goldango. It's close for sure. Like, it's definitely a close matchup, especially now that Goldango plays heavy boss. But I think Grimmsnarl does have a chance at beating Goldango because it does have the Devo in there, and it does have a lot more spread. So it does, I think it's okay into Goldango right now. Like, Grimm definitely, in my opinion, feels like a top 3 deck in the format. That's just my take, though. We saw Typhlosion in top 4 here. This deck definitely is going to get more popular now. Goldango is all over the ladder, and so is Typhlosion. I have hit so much Typhlosion. I was streaming yesterday, and I think, like, half of my games were against Typhlosion. It was crazy. Like, this deck is all over the ladder. That's just mainly because it beats Goldango. This deck does seem decent now with Brave Bangle. Like, Bangle definitely makes the deck more stronger. Now, does this deck actually beat Dragapult, Guardian, Grimm? That's the question. You are beating all the other stuff around those decks. Like, you're beating the Raging Bulls, you're beating the Goldangos, your stuff, you know, you're beating all those decks, but you're not really doing as good still into those big Stage 2 decks that have those multi-prize turn capabilities, which is the thing that I think holds Typhlosion back still. But Typhlosion's still decent right now. I'm not surprised to see it make a top 4 here. We got another Crustle in top 4. This one did not play any Monkey or Cornerstone. It was just straight Crustle. The one thing it did have, though, was the Relicanth and the new Dwebble, which has the attack Flail, which can do 10 times for each damage counter on the Pokemon. So that's an interesting concept. You use Crustle with a Luxurious Cape, and then you take a hit and then you use Flail to do big damage, which is pretty funny. I don't know how good that is, but because you don't have Ascension, right? You don't have the ability to, because the other Dwebble can evolve straight into Crustle. We had a Joltik box in top 8 with the Genesect in it. And an Air Balloon. Protective Goggles. Interesting idea. Yeah, just another Joltik box, doing Joltik box things. I definitely don't hate the idea of Genesect in the deck. to help against Goldengo. But again, as soon as Genesect becomes popular, Dengo's just going to start playing Tool Scrapper, and it's over. We did have a Pulsar in top 8. Another deck that I think is pretty underrated right now because you can play Chi-Yu, which is good, and then you also have Air Balloon, which is a pretty decent upgrade to the deck because it makes your deck more mobile, especially with your Charizard, so you don't lose as much to Monkey Dory. This deck's cool. I don't know how good it actually is right now, but I think it's pretty decent. Like, it's fairly underrated. Charizard, Dragapult, pretty strong deck. Mostly stays the same, too, from last format. You have another Joltik box in top 8. All right, this one does play the Dynamotor and the Zekrom. I've been testing this out personally, and I've been liking the Zekrom inclusion. The Electric could be debatable if you need it or not, but Zekrom definitely doesn't feel like a bad attacker. It gives you more late-game firepower, which sometimes this deck does lack. So, yeah, I don't hate the idea of Zekrom and Joltik box. Also, I don't hate the idea of Electric and Joltik box. Like, kind of a hybrid of Miraidon, Joltik might be better than just straight Generator, in my opinion, but I don't know. Seems kind of good. We had a Moon deck in top 8. This one was Turbo Moon, not Ancient Box, just more Turbo Roaring Moon EX. The Poison build, you know, still like a decent deck. I don't really, nothing writing home about, obviously. No new cards, I don't think, either in this build. But there's one Pokemon catcher, so broken technology for sure. Next up, we have the Mudkip Tourney, which was won by Goldengo. Which, this build did have some Goldengo tech cards. It had a Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon and a Genesect. I mean, I don't hate the idea of Cornerstone, because, like, I mean, in the mirror, even if they have a Scizor, like, playing a 1 of Cornerstone might actually give you an advantage in the mirror. But you do have to build it up manually, which I guess is, like, fine, because they can't attack it. It's an interesting idea. You have both Jenny and the Cornerstone, so you're just kind of hard countering this. This one does play the Tool Scrapper, the Picnic Basket. Like I said, Goldengo's going to start playing Scrapper now because Genesect is becoming more popular. We had a Miraidon deck here in the finals. But interestingly enough, this Miraidon was not playing Electric. It was all in on the Magneton idea, which is pretty funny. So just kind of the old classic Miraidon Magneton deck. No Dynamotor, which is interesting to see the no Dynamotor do well. It got second place, so it did good enough in a pretty large tournament, right? So, I mean, the rest of the top 4 is all Goldengo. There's another Dango with the Baby Dango and the Scizor. It does have the Picnic Basket, Lavencia in there too, double Turo. All right. And then the other Goldengo in top 4 here played the 1/1 Scizor, the Monkey, and the Genesect. So a lot more text in this build, but there's no Cypher. Yeah, no Cypher. That's what I was going to say. No Cypher in this build, which is also fairly interesting, but did pretty good. We had a Dragapult here in the top 8. It was the Tord Dragapult deck, it looks like, which I think is still, like, fine in this format. You're probably going to have a pretty bad matchup in a Goldengo. Like, that's, like, the one downside about playing this build of Dragapult specifically is you get probably bodied by Goldengo. I think, honestly, all the Dragapult builds, except for maybe Charizard with Chi-Yu, just gets bodied by Goldengo. Like, even Poltnor probably loses now to Goldengo because they can just put too many Goldengos on the board before you can really board wipe them. Now, this is where things get interesting. We had a couple Bulls in top 8. Now, Raging Bull, I think, is also in an interesting spot. I think the deck is actually still fairly solid right now within the format, but I just don't know if it really beats Goldengo. Also, Gardevoir getting hype right now isn't great, but Bolt is still a pretty good deck all around. We see this build does not play the Noctowl, but ironically still has a Fan Rotom in there just for, like, an extra attacker, I guess, early game. And we had another Raging Bolt here in the top 8. This one did play the Noctowl. I think the Noctowl build has a better matchup into Goldengo, and it makes sense that they did play that. Then we had a Charizard in top 8. The Pidgeot Charizard build with the Dusknoir inclusion, so that's interesting. We haven't seen that in a while. It does play Max Bell still and Mist Energy, which I don't hate. Yeah, I think Charizard's fairly positioned right now. Just Dragapult's decline in popularity, I think, is really good for this deck. And also, having some literal firepower in the deck to help against Goldengo, it definitely does the deck some wonders, for sure. Next up, we got the Pumpkin Amy Weekly Tournament, which, look at that, was also won by Charizard. This one was like the classic build we saw Gabe Fernandez play with the Chi-Yu. Just have the Mist Energy, the Luminous in the Dark, Picnic Basket, Max Bell, still as the A-Spec. Not surprised it won the tournament. I mean, it's a good time to play Charizard right now, in my opinion. We had a Guardy Jelly in the finals here. So, is this deck real or is this deck fake? We're yet to see if this deck is actually good or not, but so far, Gardevoir Jellicent definitely seems like it's good. Is it better than the normal Guardy decks? I don't know. Because this build theoretically could be better than Goldengo, but when Goldengo's playing like 4 bosses order, it's like kind of tough for this deck to keep up, in my opinion. But Gardevoir Jellicent's still decent. Obviously, losing to Charizard isn't surprising, especially if they have a Mist Energy in the deck. Just makes it even worse. We had another Goldengo here in the top 4. This one played the Scizor, the Monkey, and the Genesect. I like this build, too. The idea of the Genesect, Monkey, Scizor trio is like pretty decent, I think, for the deck altogether. We had a Typhlosion in top 4, once again, with the Dracloak. I don't know, I tried the Pidgeot Typhlosion build on stream. It was okay, but I found the Pidgeot actually was a liability. I was losing a lot of games because it wasn't played specifically. So maybe the Dracloak build is just better than Pidgeot. Not too sure on that one. I think the Pidgeot build might be better into, like, the Stage 2 decks, because Dracloak can be a more of a liability, but I don't hate it. They had a Raging Bolt here in top 8 also. Playing the Owls. Had a Cornerstone in there. Raging Bolt, I think, can already beat Goldengo, but when you have the Cornerstone, I think you're definitely beating Goldengo, especially when you have Crisp and E-Switch. You can build this thing up pretty quickly for that matchup, which does make a lot of sense. We had a Terra Box here in top 8. A deck that I don't think is, like, great in the format, but the deck being played is not surprising. Because, like, I think it's still good. It just, you gotta have to see Shaman go up and down and play. The one thing to note about this build, plays is Paldean Tauros, which KOs a Goldengo. That makes sense. That's a one-prizer. Obviously, pardon me, you're not going to play Chew in this deck, so I guess you play Tauros instead. You can, like, go Crisp and E-Switch attach. Build it up in a single turn. It's a cool idea. Speaking of Goldengo, we got another Goldengo here playing the Monkey and the Scizor. Plays a Judge. Huh. And a Super Rod. And a Palpad. I don't hate Palpad. I've thought about putting Palpad back in Goldengo. It doesn't seem like a bad idea. Was able to make a top 8. And also in top 8, we had yet another Crustle Cornerstone Monkey deck. This could be the new wall deck in the format. Makes sense to see this deck do well, because the Crustle definitely is pretty good overall. Next up, we got the SMG Nightly Standard, which Gardevoir was able to win this one with the Jellicent. So Jelly Guardy did at least win this tournament. So we saw it get finals in 1, and we saw it win this tournament here. Yeah, the Jelly Guardy deck doing pretty good right now. Who knows? Could it be real? It did end up beating Raging Bolt in the finals. Not surprised to see that. That matchup seems pretty good. This was also the Turbo Raging Bolt deck with no Owls, so it's a bit more faster, but you do maybe offset a bit of a worse Guardy matchup, obviously. But the Turbo Bolt still seems decent. We had a Goldengo in top 4 once again. This one had the bundle and the 1/1 Scizor. No Monkey, but let's play Tool Scrapper and Picnic Basket, which I think are 2 pretty good tech cards for the deck altogether. We get another Charizard in the top 4. Once again, plain Picnic Basket, Max Belt, Chew, just the more classic approach we've been seeing. It's probably the best way to play it. And we had a Pidgeot Control here in the top 8. Control definitely is interesting. I think in this meta, it's actually not terrible. With, like, Goldengo being popular, it's a bit more easy to beat that deck. One thing to note about this build, does play the new Elgyem here with that slight shift attack, moving energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another one of their Pokemon. This can be pretty good in matchups. Your opponent's energy is very sparse, and they put liabilities on the board. You can move the energy too, and you can make it so things can attack. Also, it makes it easier to trap stuff sometimes in the active spot because you can move the energy off them. Another Guardy Jelly in top 8. Yeah, this one just pretty straightforward stuff. Some of them were playing Klefki. This one does not play Klefki. Klefki could be interesting for the Goldengo matchup. We had a Spidops control deck here in the top 8. So 2 control decks in the top 8 of this tournament here. This one was a Spidops build with all the little babies in it. So this one was like baby control, as I've heard it's called, because you have Cubchoo, Dedenne, Nacli, and Elgyem in the deck. So the Nacli has corner, which you try to trap like the Owls and stuff in the active. But you also have the Cubchoo here with that snotted up attack, which does 10 damage. During your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't use attacks. So you can kind of trap stuff in the active with the Spidops and then hit them with the snotted up. It's a cool idea. This baby control deck seems kind of cool, so maybe I gotta do a video on it. I like the idea of it. The Elgyem and Cubchoo idea is pretty cool. I did a video recently on Spidops control, but it could be worth revisiting now that we have all these little, like, little one prizer guys in the deck to help out. We had a Polnor in top 8. Yeah, Polnor still seems decent. It's like, Dragapult has definitely fallen off. Again, that Goldengo and Guardy matchup just kind of seems a little shaky. It's one reason why people are not playing Dragapult as much right now. But the deck, I think, is still, like, pretty solid overall. I mean, still probably, like, the best bully deck to play, you know what I mean? And then, yeah, that's top 8 of this tournament. Moving on, we do have the Smart Series tournament, the final one to look at here. This one was the biggest online tournament I think we've ever had. It had literally over 1,500 people playing in it. This was a ginormous tournament. So these results are very important to look at. I might even look outside of the top 8 in all honesty, because the winning deck was Dragapult, and it was actually the Tord Slowpoke deck here with the new inclusion of the 2 copies of Hilda for the consistency and support. When you have the stuff like the Neo Upper Energy, Hilda makes sense to find your Dracloaks, get your energy, get your board built up. Pretty good stuff. Hilda is a great upgrade of the deck. But yeah, the Slowpoke deck won the tournament and actually beat a pretty interesting deck in the finals. It beat a Cornerstone Teal Mask Wellspring Terra Box deck. So it's not really Terra Box because there's no Owls, but it still kind of counts as an Ogre Pawn box deck because it's playing the Ogre's Mask item card to swap your Ogre Pawns in and out of the active spot. It's an interesting matchup to watch because it just played double Clefairy, so you'd think it'd be favored, but obviously, when you have stuff like the Maractus in the mix and whatnot, the Dragapult deck definitely can have the advantage in this matchup, even with the addition of Clefairy and Double Bravery Charm and Legacy Energy even. But it was cool to see these two decks duke it out in the finals of the tournament. We had another Dragapult deck here in top 4, and this one was Poltnor, making it all the way in the top 4 here. This one does play the double Hilda. It's got Monkey in there, Jamming Tower. Jamming Tower seems really good on Dragapult. If I'm playing Dragapult right now, I'm probably considering playing heavy Jamming Tower just because of Goldengo and Air Balloon. We had another Charizard Dusknoir deck here in the top 4. Just like the build we looked at the beginning of the video, it does have the heavy Dusk, it does play the Chi-Yu in there too, and no Pidgeot, no Fez, just the Tuskegee kind of as your engine. It's like probably the same 60 as one we looked at. Joltik Box made it into the top 8 too, with the Genesect and a Judge and a Brave Bangle. So some interesting inclusions in there. The Brave Bangle, I guess, lets Galvantula hit higher numbers. I'm not sure what it fixes on the Galvantula, but it's got to be something. And then obviously the Genesect, good to have it in the Goldengo matchup. So cool stuff. We had a Typhlosion making it in top 8. The deck could be real. It was another Typhlosion Dracloak build. So again, this could be the best way to play Typhlosion instead of Pidgeot. Again, all the Typhlosion builds also we've seen with the Dracloak are not playing Dragapult. They're just all in on the one prizers, which makes sense. You want to make a more solid one prize board state. You don't want to kind of jank up your deck with Dragapult. I get it. It's fine, I guess. Made it in top 8. Another Poltnor in top 8. Interesting to see so much Dragapult, Dusk, and stuff in the top 8 of this giant 1,500 player tournament. I mean, maybe the smaller tournaments, people are just not as interested in playing Dragapult as much. I don't know what it is, because like a 1,500 player tournament, seeing this much Dragapult in top 8 is interesting. Because like I think this deck's starting to fall off a little bit. I mean, we aren't really seeing it outside of literally this one tournament do as well. So it's very interesting to see those results specifically. We had some Charizards in top 8. We had another Pidgeot Charizard here with the Mist, the Max Belt. Does play a Briar, so that's an interesting inclusion for sure. Probably puts a lot of win cons on the board. And then we had another Charizard here outside the top 8. Once again, playing the Mist, the Max Belt, and stuff. All right. Yeah, I want to look outside the top 8 here, because it is pretty important to look at that, in my opinion. We had Grant Manley playing the tournament, getting 10th place with the more classic Guardy approach. No Jelly, but did have Fluttermane and the Devo in the deck, so obviously that does help against stuff like Goldengo, and the Fluttermane can be pretty good in other situations too, and the Devo does make a big difference. Is this build more favored into like Guardy Jelly Mirror, though, is the thing. But this was the highest placing Gardevoir in the tournament, so it's doing something right. We had a Ho Armor Rouge deck here. This deck might be stronger, obviously, when Prism Energy gets unbanned. Later today, once Pokemon TCG Live is done for maintenance, we should see this deck probably get a bit better, because Prism comes back, which is debatably better than Luminous in the deck. But yeah, it's a toolbox deck. It's got all the attackers. Just play the new Reshiram in there. The highest placing Ho Armor Rouge deck we've seen so far here in a 1,500 player tournament. This deck also seems like it could be real. Who knows? It's just kind of a pile, though. It's very bricky and clunky sometimes. Another Charizard here outside the top 8 with the Mist and Max Belt, the usual stuff. Then we had a Grimmsnarl here. I'm surprised seeing Grimmsnarl not have as many good results so far in this format. We've seen it a couple times so far in this video, but I thought Grimm was going to be a lot better in this meta. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe Grimmsnarl's just not as good as it was last format. I don't know. It seems like it's still like a decent deck in my opinion. Like I still like Grimmsnarl right now, but yeah, it's interesting to see it not do as well. Another Joltik Box in top 16. By the way, all these decks we're looking at were in the asymmetrical cut, so they all had a chance of duking it out in top 8, which is why I do want to look at them. So yeah, Joltik Box, no Genesect in here. Does play a new, well, not really new cover. It's got the Team Rocket's Petrol in there. And a Watchtower and a Jamming Tower, so a little bit more of a teched out build there. And then we had a Crustle in top 16. It was Crustle Thorns with the Cornerstone, so like a hybrid of those other Crustle decks we were looking at. Another Raging Bull played by Ala Blitzel here. He did put the Cornerstone in the deck. Obviously, again, makes the big difference against stuff like Goldengo. You put that Cornerstone down, you have the double Crispin, you're easily building that thing up, and then Goldengo is just not doing anything against you. Another Crustle here. Yeah, just Monkey and Cornerstone again, like the build we saw earlier. And we had a Flareon deck in top 16. Again, this deck seems pretty good right now. Definitely a deck I would keep my eye on if considering playing decks right now. Because like I do think Flareon seems pretty good in this meta. So just see on that one if it gets any better or not. I think ASIM was it all the 30 match pointers in ASIM? Or is it top 16 ASIM? We'll look at all the 30 match pointers here before we wrap things up. Got Grim, the Frostlass still. Yeah, I think Grim is good. Got Air Balloon in there. Yeah, Grim seems good still. We got a couple Pulsards here. Got the Air Balloon Max Belt. Yeah, I like Max Belt and Pulsard. I do like that. That seems kind of decent, actually. Another Pulsard here. This one's got Prime Catcher. This one's different A-spec. We got another Joltik box here. No Genesect in this build. Does have the Air Balloon. A couple Grav Mountains in there for the Stage 2 decks. Makes sense. And then another Guardy here. This one does not play Jelly. So, yeah, just, again, the NEIC build we saw with the Quad Monkey and the Turbo Energized. But does have a Devo in there. So, still respecting the Goldengo matchup. And finally, we have another Typhlosion here at 30 match points. Playing the Drakcloak. So, this Typhlosion Drakcloak deck. Doing pretty good. So, I guess it is a real deck. It's pretty good. No Pidgeot. And that was it for the Smart Series tournament. Again, 1,500 players in it. I mean, these tournaments are getting ginormous. So these results definitely have a pretty big impact for sure. Final one I want to look at was Azul's Black and White Invitational Tournament, mainly because everyone playing in the tournament was like a top-level player, so it is interesting to see what they brought to the tables, and we saw Goldengo win it all. Brent Tonneson was playing Goldengo. He was playing Goldengo with the Scizor and the Genesect. This is kind of where we're seeing like that specific build become more popular. Quad Air Balloon, Quad Boss, Quad Arvin, just trying to maximize the outs for everything, even playing a Switch, so just has a ton of draw within this list here. Yeah, cool stuff. It was able to win the Invitational Tournament, beating another Goldengo in the finals, played by William Azevedo, who's playing it with the Scizor. Also playing Quad Boss, Quad Arvin. Does have a couple ciphers, so had Tool Scrapper 2, 3 Air Balloon, Levencia. It's a bit different. Didn't have the Genesect, obviously. Then we saw Gabe Fernandez on the Pidgeot control deck. This one was interesting because, like, it had a lot of crazy stuff in here. It had Sudowoodo, the 2 Elgyms, the Scovillain EX, which I'm sure was there to, like, use its first attack to trap the opponent, but also could maybe sometimes use second attack, or never could use second attack. Mainly just there for the first attack to, like, burn and trap stuff. It's an interesting inclusion in the deck. And then we saw Isaiah Bradner playing the Guardy Jelly deck here, had the Klefki in there. And then we saw another Guardy Jelly played by Okada Ryuku, who's kind of similar to 60. He's got the Klefki in there too. And then we had Daniel Magda on the Goldengo. His list was interesting. He was not playing eSearch Pro. He was opting to play Trolley and Quad Vessel, with also 4 Petrol and 4 Arvin. So a lot of these Goldengo decks are not playing Cypher Maniac, which is kind of crazy to say. But yeah, this one was a very interesting concept. I still think Goldengo without eSearch Pro could be decent. Just eSearch Pro is just so nice, right? But it could be good. Callie White was on Joltik box here. And then finally we had Henry Chow on Guardy. Did not play the Klefki though, but was playing the Jellicent still. So it's a bit different from Bradner's list. But yeah, that was that. I wanted to look at the Invitational because again, top level players playing in these decks, pretty important to look at in my opinion. But there you go. Those are the first weekend of online tournament results with Black Bolt White Flare Legal. The big thing to take away is just how popular Goldengo is. Like, even if we go to the Smart Tournament here, like, look at the metagame. Goldengo was the most played deck by a long shot. 198 people in this tournament decided to play Goldengo. We saw Raging Bolt and Grimmsnarl also very popular. Dragapult, Charizard, Gardevoir being kind of popular too. So it's interesting to see the metagame for these tournaments specifically. I think the main takeaway this weekend, obviously, though, yeah, Goldengo is the most popular deck in the meta right now. It feels like your deck needs to be able to beat Goldengo. The deck just seems so strong. When even the big players like William Azevedo and Brent Tonneson are playing Goldengo and winning with it, that deck definitely just has shot up a lot in popularity and is looking like it could be the potential BDIF of this current Worlds meta. We'll have to see how the meta evolves, continuing going into Worlds. For the next video, hopefully we see some more interesting decks and results here as the meta continues to evolve and shape up. But yeah, that'll be for me. I'll leave a link to Play.Lumos down below in the description if you want to go play in any of these online tournaments for yourself. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 25K subs. And I'll catch y'all later. Bye-bye.